Hey guys, welcome back. This is part 2 of going over the Carpathian series. I'm going to zoom you in just a little bit, so I'm sorry. And working on my husband. So, I got my iPad over here, and I got my unicorn pan, and I got my tray, and we're going to continue. Let's see. That one should be 3371. I am correct. And there's only a few, so I'm just going to pull it from here instead of putting some on the tray. So in the last video we did books 1 through 10. And depending on how long it takes me to do the next 10 will depend on if I try to do a third part. So the first video, it took a while for me to get started. So, and I was trying to do too much talking about each book, but then I just decided I'll just do the brief synopsis and let you all decide if you want to check it out and read it and find out more about it. So, we are on book 11. Book 11 is Dark Melody. Nope. Book 11 is another short story novella. And this one actually introduces us to a few characters. So, okay. And do I have a lot of them? Not really, so I'll just pull them out of the tray too. Out of the container. So this one is called Dark Descent. Dark Descent. I can't talk. So, Dark Descent tells the story of Joy Sanders, a bodyguard in Traian Trevagis, an ancient hunter meeting after a battle in a deep cave filled with mystery and wonder. Set in the Carpathian novels, Joy, with her brother and sister, go caving and come across an ancient warrior beset upon by several vampires. They have no choice but to throw their lot in with the hunter and do their best to escape with their lives from the underground labyrinth filled with ancient traps left behind by a powerful race. Now, Joy's brother and sister become very intricate to the story, to future books. Her sister Gabrielle becomes a researcher, and she actually falls in love with this character named Gary, who you meet in book 4 with Gregory and Savannah. So, but that's all in a different book, so you don't have to worry about that one. You really seem crooked, don't you? Okay. So that is book 10. Book 11 takes us back to the Dark Troubadours from book 5 and 6. Yeah, 5 and 6. And let's see what I'm looking at. I'm looking for Z. 3778. It is called Dark Melody. Okay. Lead guitarist of the Dark Troubadours, Dayan was renowned for his mesmerizing performances. His melodies stilled crowds, beckoned, seduced, tempted. And always he called to her, his lover, his life mate. He called to her to complete him, to give him the emotions that had faded from his existence, leaving him an empty shell of growing darkness. Save me, come to me. Corinne Wentworth stood at the vortex of a gathering storm. Pursued by the same fanatics who'd murdered her husband, she was risking her life by keeping more than one secret. Fragile, delicate, vulnerable, she had an indomitable faith that made her fiery surrender to Dayan all the more powerful. This was the one woman whose loss could destroy him, even as her love promised to heal his soul. This was a very good book. I love this book just for the simple fact that she knew, even as a human, from the very beginning, that she belonged with Dayan. Yes, she was married beforehand, but it was not a marriage of love. They were friends. And so it wasn't like a romantic love. And it didn't bother Dayan because he knew as soon as he saw her that he belonged with her. Now, I will preface to say that she was a fan of their group, and she'd always found his music haunting. So, but she wasn't like a groupie or anything. It wasn't anything like that. So, this story had a very interesting ending to it, a little bit of a twist, but I think it just added to their story and made it all the more perfect. So, there's another person in this book, which was her husband's sister, and they're best friends. So, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think you really hear about her again after this story. She's not a life mate to a Carpathian or anything like that, so she just kind of falls a little bit to the wayside. I hate to say that, but yeah. That's the end of that one. And on to the next book. Next book is Dark Destiny. This is a very interesting book. Okay, so they're all interesting, but yeah, what can I say? Okay. 3864. There's quite a few of these. Maybe not that many. Oh well. Her childhood had been a nightmare of violence and pain until she heard his voice calling out to her, golden and seductive, the voice of an angel. He had shown her how to survive, taught her how to use her unique gifts, trained her in the ancient art of hunting the vampire. Yet he could not bend her to his will. He could not summon her to him, no matter how great his power. As she battled centuries-old evil in a glittering labyrinth of caverns and crystals, he whispered in her mind, forging an unbreakable bond of trust and need. Only with him can she find the courage to embrace the seductive power of her dark destiny. Her name is Destiny. And I think his name is Nicholas, is what I'm wanting to say it is. So, this one is different because she is actually... God, I don't want to give nothing away. But, needless to say, he tries and tries and tries to connect with her in a way that Carpathian life mates connect. And she rebels against it every step of the way, even though she knows that they belong together. Yes, she is a Carpathian, but there is a reason behind that, which, if you read the story, you will find out, because I don't want to say it. It's an integral part of the plot, so... But, there is a character in this book that is an older woman, and she actually runs into a vampire, and it's like she realizes that he was her life mate, but he didn't hang on for her. He turned into a vampire, and once you turn into a vampire, there's no going back. There's no saying, oh, I take backs, you know, I want to be a Carpathian now that I found somebody who was my life mate. No. So, there's no turning back once you become a vampire. So, I thought that was a very interesting twist. It doesn't really have too much to do with the story, but it was just something that took place in the novel. I thought was pretty interesting. So, book 14 is another short story. It is called Dark Hunger, and they've actually made kind of like a manga book of this one. I have it. It's kind of weird. Somebody who doesn't really do manga, yeah. That's how much I like her stuff, is that I would buy stuff that is material that I normally wouldn't buy. So, but synopsis of this story is: in a dark jungle, a beautiful activist liberates animals from a secret laboratory and stumbles across an unexpected prisoner. She releases the Carpathian from his bonds, only to unleash his ferocious appetite on herself. Now, the thing to remember is that with her short stories, they basically, both of them know from the very beginning that they belong together. And so it's basically just the plot of the book that is going around them, because they've already realized they belong together. So they just take care of the antagonist that's in the book. Which there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's a quick read. So, and she's only got, I want to say that is it as far as her short stories. I may be wrong, but I'll have to. So book 15 introduces us to the De La Cruz brothers. These are 5 brothers who have been sent out to, I want to say, South America, I want to say, to fight the Malinoff brothers, who have all turned vampires and are very, very powerful brothers. So they were sent to South America to help combat the threat made by the Malinoff brothers. And book 15 also introduces us to the fact that sometimes things are not always what they appear. So, alright. Rafael de la Cruz has spent centuries hunting vampires with his brothers, and with each passing year, his capacity to feel emotions has grown weaker and weaker, until finally there's barely been a memory left, until only sheer willpower keeps him from turning into the very abomination he hunts. But it'd take more than will to keep him away from the woman who is meant to be his and his alone. For 5 years, rancher Colby Jansen has been the sole protector of her younger half-siblings, and with fierce determination and work, she has kept her family together and the ranch operational. Now the De La Cruz brothers are threatening that stability. They claim that her siblings, along with their father's family, not with her. They claim that her siblings belong with their father's family, not with her. Colby vows to fight them, especially the cold and arrogant Rafael de la Cruz. But Rafael is after more than her family. He wants Colby, and he will not let anything stand between them. After ages of loneliness, the raw desire to possess her overwhelms his very soul, driving him to claim her as his life mate. Now, I've read reviews from people about this book who have basically stated that Rafael is nothing but a rapist. I don't know. I don't buy that. So, I'm just going to leave that at that. Colby, we learn a little bit about her history. She is actually the daughter of a Carpathian and a human. Okay, she's the daughter of a Carpathian who raped her mother. And her mother had her. So, yeah, she's got a little bit of a sordid history, but the book is good. Don't believe people who say that Rafael is nothing but a rapist, because he's not. Okay. Book 16 is another De La Cruz brother. It is called Dark Demon. Oh, the one beforehand was called Dark Secret. Sorry about that. So Dark Secret is Rafael and Colby's story. Dark Demon. No, I take that back. Dark Demon is not a De La Cruz brother. He is actually Nicholas's brother from Dark Destiny. So, okay. For as long as she can remember, Natalia has been fighting demons. First in the form of childhood nightmares, then later in mortal creatures that kill and prey on the innocent, including her own twin brother. Whether Carpathian or vampire, she slays those who murder by night. and has no equal, until she is seduced by the very thing she considers the enemy. A Carpathian who has seen nearly everything in his endless existence, Virkanov didn't think he could be surprised any more, until he faces a woman who rivals him as a vampire hunter. A formidable and gifted warrior in her own right, Natalia has a nature that is strangely familiar, yet alien to his own. Who is this mysterious female who fears no one, not even him? Natalia could be the key to the survival of Carpathians, but all Virkanov is certain of is that she is the key to his heart and soul. I like the story, but I'll be honest with you, I think I only read it one time all the way through. So I really can't tell you too much about it. Or even give it a proper review. Because like I said, it's been a while. Oh, well, apparently Christine has notes at the end of each of these books that I haven't even been looking at. So let's read what she said about this. Virkanov von Schreider believes that women, in particular life mates, live to please their man. He is positive his life mate will hang on to his every word and do what he tells her. Natalia Shansky has a magic all her own. She's battled vampires, is quite disgusted when they keep rising, but gamely kills them multiple times, and she has a smart mouth on her. The last thing she is ever going to do is hang on to some man's word and do what he tells her. The book takes place in the Carpathian Mountains and revisits the ice cave of the Dark Wizard and brings a battle right to the door of the prince. The book is filled with action and humor, and the chemistry between Virkanov and Natalia was amazing. This book also introduces the original Carpathian language, so hopefully it will be something to really look forward to. So, I think I've been missing out a lot by not reading those notes. I feel awful now. Okay. The next book is the best book in this whole world. And I'll tell you why. It is called Dark Celebration. And it basically brings every single Carpathian that we have been introduced to so far back together for a celebration. You get to focus. You're not focusing too much on one single couple. You get to see the interactions between everyone. You get to meet some of your favorite characters that you got introduced to a while back, and you get to see them again. Get to see what they're doing, what they're up to, things like that. So, this is one of my favorite novels. I've read this one quite a few different times. And plus, you get a little bit more of Skylar, and you get to meet her life mate. And Gabriel and Francesca, who had adopted Skylar, don't take too well to Dimitri, already trying to hone in on Skylar. It is a very, very good story. Let me go into the synopsis of it. After centuries as the prince of the Carpathians, Mikhail Dobrinsky fears he can't protect them for long from their greatest threat, the extinction of their species, a fate that has become the wicked prayer of his enemies. To ensure it, they are devising a scheme to slaughter Carpathian females. Their enemies, not Mikhail. But even with his own life mate Raven and their daughter Savannah vulnerable to the encroaching evil, Mikhail's hope is not lost. In this desperate season, Carpathians from around the world are gathering to join their strengths, their souls, and their powers to bring light to the darkness. But so too are their adversaries uniting, hunters, vampires, demons, and betrayers, bringing untold dangers into the fold of the Carpathian people. Now, for the first time, born from the uninhibited imagination of Christine Feehan, all the inhabitants of Carpathian legend are reunited for a celebration of sensual adventure, undying passion, and astonishing fantasy, one to remember for 1,000 lifetimes. That is a very apt synopsis. And I love the fact that, yes, I am going to say something about the book. I love the fact that Mikhail spends the beginning of this story going and visiting, because all the Carpathians are in the Carpathian Mountains. He goes in and visits every single couple, and he learns a little bit more about them and how they tick. We find out that there are pregnancies going on. For the first time, there are quite a few Carpathian women who are pregnant, and they're trying their best to make sure that the babies survive. So, Christine's notes on this story is, over the years, many of you have written to me asking for a Carpathian reunion book. I have finally managed to convince my publishers that you all want and deserve it. Dark Celebration is a special hardcover book. It is my thank you to all of you who have supported my writing and given me such a wonderful career. Please consider it my gift to you. I am bringing back many of your favorite characters, and I hope you enjoy it. The reunion book also includes a collection of the winning, yummy recipes from the Dark Desserts recipe contest held at the end of last year. Christine Feehan. This book was released in 2006, and like I said, it is one of my favorite books. So, the end of the book, we are introduced to Manuel de la Cruz, whose story takes place in the next book. Which is Dark Possession. I said Manuel, but I was wrong. It's Manuelito de la Cruz knew he was dangerously close to turning into a vampire. The last thing he expected after being called back to his Carpathian homeland by Prince Mikhail was to catch the scent of his destined life mate in Mary Ann Delaney. Mary Ann is human, but she knows all too well the overwhelmingly aggressive instincts of Carpathian males. Her best friend is Destiny, as you remember from Dark Destiny. And they're not exactly the kind of men she'd prefer to be bound to for life. A dedicated counselor for battered women, Mary Ann has a fulfilling life with no room for someone like Manuelito, born and bred in the Carpathian Mountains, a law unto himself. But when Mary Ann agrees to go to South America to offer guidance to a brutalized young woman, she's oblivious of the trap that awaits her in the sweltering thick of the jungle. She's been lured there by Manuelito himself, who has seductive plans for the unaware, irresistibly human female. Once there, she will be his. Once his, she will never be released. He is her lover, her predator, her life mate. She is his dark possession. So he meets her during the book before Dark Celebration. So, like I said, she knows all about the Carpathians because her best friend Destiny. So, she is aware of what goes on between life mates. So, it is no surprise. There's a lot of this color here in his eyes, or around his eyes, I should say. Okay, book 19 is called Dark Curse, and I want to say, yes, it is a De La Cruz book as well, about about one of the De La Cruz brothers. So, born into a world of ice and slave to her evil father, Lara Kaladin knew only paralyzing fear as a child, and escaping with her mysterious gifts unbroken would be the only way to survive her great Carpathian heritage as a dragon seeker. Human, yet mage, she was of the blood of 3 species, yet belonged to none. She walked her chosen path alone, guided by the wisdom of her aunts, to blend in and let no one know of her ancestry and powers, and never trust anyone. For beyond the frozen hell of her youth was a world of even greater mysteries and dangers. Today, Lara is a leading expert in the field of ice cave study around the world and the healing microorganisms that thrive in them. She is also in search of something else, the source of her nightmares, the cold, dark corners of her childhood. Only one man has the will and the powers to help her, Nicholas de la Cruz, for whom centuries of hunting and killing have long since taken their toll. Dangerous and arrogant, he still longs to feel sensual love without the hunger for blood. Now between Lara and Nicholas a tenuous trust has emerged, and a passion neither has ever known before, as a melody of dark promise begins. But as each scales the treacherous land of the Carpathian in search of their past, they also harbor a secret that could save or destroy them. And as each may be desirous of a new beginning as life mates, they are also haunted by the unknown dangers of a dark curse. Okay. He's Nicholas, who was Destiny's Nikolai. So, I was close. Okay, let's read Christine's notes on this one real quick. Okay. Dark Curse is a book I've been looking forward to writing for a long time. I've wanted answers to some of the reasons Carpathian women couldn't breastfeed, why they couldn't carry their babies, why babies died within the first couple of years, what had happened over the years to change things so drastically that the Carpathian species was on the brink of extinction. I also wanted to know a little bit more about the culture and society of the Carpathians. What are some of their secret ceremonies? How do so many alpha males react when they are in such close proximity to each other? I know this book would be an adventure from start to finish, and for me it was. It was a thrill to get up every morning to see the world unfolding and watch the characters, a strong man with an equally strong woman, rise to defeat an enemy. I loved learning a little bit more about the world beneath the ground. I hope the world becomes as intriguing for you as it is for me. I like that she writes like her characters are telling her their story. I think it adds a little bit more realism to them. So okay, that was book 19. Book 20 is called Dark Slayer. Now this is a very interesting story. It combines two people who are thought to be enemies to the Carpathians, brings them together, and helps the Carpathians realize that everything that they believed was not so. It's called Dark Slayer. A rumor has persisted in the vampire world of a Dark Slayer, a woman who travels with a wolf pack and who destroys any vampire who crosses her path. Mysterious, elusive, and seemingly impossible to kill, she is the one hunter who strikes terror into the hearts of the undead. She is Ivory Malinov, her only brethren the wolves, long ago betrayed by her people, abandoned by her family, and cast out by everyone she held dear. Ivory has lived a century without companionship or love. She has sustained her sanity by the habit of the hunt and the custom of the feeding, until the night she picks up a scent of a man, her unexpected salvation, her life mate, the curse of all Carpathian women. He is Razvan, branded a criminal, detested and feared. He is a dragon seeker born of one of the greatest Carpathian lineages, only to be raised as its most despised and captive enemy. Fleeing from his lifetime of imprisonment, Razvan now seeks the dawn to end his terrible existence. Instead, he has found his deliverance in the Dark Slayer. In spirit, in flesh and blood, in love and in war, Ivory and Razvan are made for each other, for as long as they dare to live. This is a very, very powerful story. I love Ivory and Razvan. Now, Ivory is the sister to the Malinov brothers. And she believes that all Carpathians have betrayed her. Everybody believes that she is dead, but obviously she's not. So Christine's notes on this are brief, and she says, I couldn't wait to write this book. I've built up to it for so long. I took a hated enemy, Razvan, who had suffered so much and was so abused, and let people know what I knew all along. He is a hero. He was hated and alone, so his life mate would need to be very special, and so I gave him someone who had also suffered greatly, Ivory. They were two outcasts who were extraordinary together, and I wanted to give them a beautiful love story, and she did. And eventually the Carpathians welcomed them back into their fold. So that was book 20. And I'm going to go ahead. Let's see, this one is about 40 minutes long. I'm going to go ahead and end this one. And I'm not going to do part 3 right away. I'll wait and see what kind of response I get from these two and see if anybody's interested in hearing about the next 12 books that she's released in this series. She's got one coming out in September, so that'd be book 33. And then I can talk about her other books if anybody's interested that are not Carpathians. And if you want me to read Christine's notes for any of the other books that I did not realize that Christine's notes were down on, let me know, and I will come back and read those as well. I actually kind of want to see what she says about Dark Prince, so hang on just a second. I'm going to go back there and see what her notes say about that one. Okay, this is Christine's notes for Dark Prince, which was her first one. I began this book several years before I became published. I originally was going to write a werewolf book because I wanted to do something really different, and I absolutely love wolves. I have done so much research on them and coincidentally on vampires also. I ended up taking the lore and myths of the vampire and weaving them into a book that answered my question, where did the first vampire come from? There are so many tales of vampires in almost every country down through the ages. That is when I stumbled onto the answer, the Carpathian people. The discovery of this dying race of people, struggling desperately to preserve their place in the world, afforded me many intriguing adventures on their behalf. This was a very exciting and fascinating book to write. I loved all the characters and wanted to know more about them. I spent so much time with Mikhail and Raven, Gregory and Jacques, that I felt very sad when I finished the book. Fortunately, my mind was already alive with more Carpathian lore. So, there you have the first 20 books of the Carpathian series. I hope I have interested you all enough to at least pick up one of them and read more and discover the same love for these stories as I have. So, I'm going to end this here. I hope you all have a great night. I don't know when this will be published, but thank you so much for joining me and letting me talk about my favorite series of books, and I will talk to you all later. Bye.